Good morning, everybody. It's Chattin with CHAP, and I'm your host, Ginger Wade, and you might be looking at your clock going, wait a second, it's like 9 o'clock. Well, the snow has hit where I live, and I had to send my kids out to play in it because I never know when it's going to turn into rain or just disappear and melt. So I was like, go out, play. So guess what? I'm not schooling anyone at the moment, so I thought, what a perfect time to get on and talk with you guys this morning before I have to get into my things of the day. So anyway, here I am, and today we're going to talk about beauty and the biblical description of beauty, the definition of beauty, because I think this is really important. It's really important to our hearts as moms. It's really important to our daughters' hearts, and we really need to be discussing it and learning what true beauty is and teaching it to our children because, you all know the world has it so messed up. So before we jump into the topic, I just wanted to remind you all that we do have the Midwinter Conference coming up in just a little over a week. It is going to be next Friday and Saturday. So the link is there on the screen. You can click to find out more about it, but you're not going to want to miss this. It's a great time to refresh and renew and to get that gusto you need to get through the rest of your school year. Okay, so here we go. Beauty. What influences your concept of beauty, your ideas about beauty? What is beauty? Who defines beauty? Is it defined by the beholder? By anyone who says, well, that's beauty, no, that's beauty? Who says what beauty is? And here's the big question. Are you training your children to know where beauty comes from and what beauty is? That's part of homeschool. I mean, it's just as important as math. It's just as important as all the other things. It's a life skill, right? Good character, good understanding of who we are and who we've been created to be by God. So one of the reasons we personally chose to homeschool is so that my kids, pretty much my daughters mostly, but they would not have that pressure to look good every day, all the time. Like when I think about the amount of money we've saved homeschooling because of clothing, it's astounding because in my childhood, all the cool kids were in Esprit, they were in Banana Republic, they were wearing J. Crew and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, right. Like I had hand-me-downs and like knockoffs. And you know what? Back then, thrifting was not cool. So going to Goodwill and getting someone else's Esprit that they were done using last year was not cool. And I know that's our whole, maybe it's just the homeschool culture. We love thrifting and getting the deals, but it was not a thing when I grew up. And there was a lot of pressure. My role models were terrible. We were the TV generation. So who was I watching? Daisy Duke. I was watching Charlie's Angels. Any of those people back in the day. Barbie, hello, physically impossible. How about the Disney princesses? I mean, who has eyeballs that big, right? Like, it's just not even, you can't physically attain what is being put before us as beautiful. So we were not designed to look or act the way these people that are put before us do, right? So the average woman doesn't look anything like these people who are supposed to be our feminine role models. We need to know and realize and accept that God's design is perfect. And we need to care for our bodies and to be healthy. So, right, we all look different, don't we? We all have, we're shaped different and our hair is different and our eyes are different. We've got freckles and like all the things and our skin care tone, whatever, is all different. And you know what? God made that on purpose. He made it on purpose. He wanted all that variety. He loves variety. Look at the world outside. Look at all the trees and all the plants and all the animals and all the fish and all the things and all the variety. There's so much variety there. Have you been doing some science studying, right? You've been looking at all the variety. Why wouldn't there be a variety in people too? So what is true beauty then? If it's not this stuff, if it's not what you can see, if it's not the big gigantic eyeballs, right? What is it? What is beauty? So society, of course, has it backwards. Like other things, society says act however you want to get whatever you want and look good doing it, right? And that is just not what God has brought us to, what God puts out there. So what does God say? I'm going to read 1 Samuel 16:7 to you. This is what he says. The Lord said to Samuel, this is when Samuel was going to find David and anoint him as the next king. He says, do not consider his appearance or his height. This is David's brother. For I have rejected him. The Lord does not look at the things man looks at. Think about what we look at. Man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks where? He looks at the heart. He looks to see what our character is, what we're believing, what we're putting into our brains, right? What's in here. So how's your heart? Moms out there, dads out there, how's your heart? How's your daughter's hearts? What do they think of beauty? What do they think of themselves and if they're beautiful? So let's go again back to scripture. I'm going to pop over here to Peter now. And what Peter says, 1 Peter 3, verses 3 and 4, it's not about hair and clothes. And Peter talks about this. He says, your beauty should not come from outward adornment, such as braided hair and the wearing of gold jewelry and fine clothes. Instead, it should be that of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which is of great worth in God's sight. The gentle and quiet spirit. What on earth does that mean? What is a gentle and quiet spirit? Does this mean that you're supposed to be silent and kind of mousy and submissive and all this? If you're a loud laughing talker, guess who's a loud laughing talker? Right? Do it. If you are a quiet person and you're more reserved, do it, because God designed you to be that way. Okay? He designed you to have the personality that you have. There's a reason you have that personality. So what I've learned over the years, and this has been so important for me to learn, is that gentle and quiet spirit means a spirit or a heart that's at peace with God. You've accepted his offer of forgiveness. You've accepted Jesus. You've asked forgiveness for your sins, and you are sitting quietly before him, waiting for him to guide you and direct you, right? You're at peace with what he's doing. You're connected to, you're contented with what he's doing in your life, and that it's not according to your plan, but he's doing wonderful things according to his plan. So are you calm in the midst of the storms in your life? That's a gentle and quiet spirit. Do you go to God for help first through prayer? That's a gentle and quiet spirit. Do you rely on him to give you strength and wisdom? That is a gentle and quiet spirit. Moms, take the time to learn this. Okay? Take the time. It's going to be so good for you to learn how to have a gentle and quiet spirit. Are you teaching it to your girls also? Do your daughters know how to have a gentle and quiet spirit? Train them to use their emotions as a barometer. Okay? Emotions are a terrible master. They are not to be mastered by their emotions. You're not to be mastered by your emotions. If you have a, out there spirit and you're zesty and passionate and all that, that's good. But don't let your passions define how you relate to people, how you respond to people. It's a good barometer. I don't like this, but it doesn't mean that you should go off on people, right? So that's beauty, is learning how to control those emotions, right? Learning how to function with others in a way that is God-pleasing and kind and loving and all the things in 1 Corinthians 13. They're a terrible master. Do not be governed by your emotions. And moms, maybe you need to do a heart check on this. And maybe you need to really work with a daughter who's spirited, right? And teach them about being self-controlled in their emotions and stuff like this. Dads, your wife and daughters need to hear that they're beautiful. Not only physically, but also beautiful character things. What are beautiful character things you're seeing in your wife? What are beautiful character things you're seeing in your daughters? Wow, I see that you picked up your room without being told. That is amazing. Wow, honey, I know you worked really hard on supper even after you schooled the kids all day. I really appreciate it, and you're doing a great job. I mean, we need this stuff again and again and again. I'm teaching a marriage class right now, and last week I said to the husbands, I'm like, you know what? Your wife may seem like she's all that and got it together and boom, 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 and she is strong, but she needs your words of kindness, your affirmations. She needs to hear that she's beautiful. She's beautiful in many different ways, not just looks, character, inside, the important stuff. So our world paints an errant picture. I think we all know that, right? Fight the message. Don't succumb to it. Teach your boys, dads, teach your boys the world is wrong. Okay? Your boys have to be taught the world's view of beauty is wrong. The message is pervasive. It's there all the time. You can't escape it. Don't let it in. And that's going to take some vigilance. It's going to take some hard work. Examine what your family watches. What does it portray as beautiful and normal? Don't forget to check your video games. I've looked at those video games. I've watched Marvel movies. I know what they portray women as. And like, how far from the truth is that? Like, who looks like the women in video games? Is that what your boys are thinking women are going to be like? Oh, my wife is going to be like, whatever. I don't know. Maybe they won't come out and say it, but maybe it's in there. And you need to really talk to them about that. Like, do you have this wrong thought too, men, of what women are supposed to look like? Is your view of beauty skewed also? So our aim as parents, pulling this back into the homeschooling realm, you're thinking about teaching and training your kids, we're teaching the truth to our kids, right? We're working along with learning all the academic stuff and we're learning life skills. The core is the values, knowing and believing the truth and walking in it. How's that going in the realm of beauty in your household? Have you talked about it? Have you thought about it at all? What are your influences? Are they biblical influences? And sometimes you're going to need to make some hardcore sacrifices to do what is best for you and your family. Sometimes it means giving up things that you're really used to and really enjoy and really like, but you think about it and you're like, it's not really giving the message that should be being given, right? So think about it and ask God for strength to do what is right. So 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10, let's read that. What does that say? 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10 says, I also want women to dress modestly with decency and propriety, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or expensive clothes, but with good deeds appropriate for women who profess to worship God. Does this define your standard for beauty? Are you encouraging the good deeds? Are you encouraging a servant heart in your children? Volunteer opportunities, even for guys, they can be handsome in good deeds, right? They could be handsome in their heart. It's not about looks for them either. It hits women more, but it is part of being a guy too, right? All this is applicable for our children, all of our children. So set your kids up for success. Teach them the truth about beauty and how wrong and constant that message from the world is. Open their eyes, open your eyes, take the veil off and really look at what our culture tells us day in and day out constantly about beauty. It's very pervasive and maybe you haven't noticed it. So teach your kids and yourself to be vigilant, to guard their hearts and minds against the world's harmful message and protect them, build them up and stand firm in your resolve. I know it's really hard. Trust me, I know. Years ago, my child wanted a phone, and we're like, no, we're not doing that. Well, everybody else is doing it, and this isn't a homeschool circle. No, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. God has instructed us that this is pervasive, and it's not going to be healthy for you, and boy, are we glad that we stood by that. And this child who really wanted this has come back and said, I'm really glad that you stood firm on that. You were, we had a good in-between. We weren't super strict. We weren't super loose, and it was good. It worked out well, but we prayed. We saw God on it. We talked about it a lot. It wasn't just this thing that we let happen. So that's important. It's important to have those conversations and to talk with your kids about it and why you're doing what you're doing and the fact that it's God who's leading you to make these decisions. Hey, the buck stops with God, right? Who's going to argue with that? Job did a little bit, but then I think at the end of Job, he knew the buck stopped with God, and that's what it was. So some of those decisions are really hard to make, and you're going to look different than everybody else. You're going to look different, and it's okay. It's okay to look different. It's okay to not do what everybody else is doing. If you're protecting your children and training them up in righteousness, it is going to be good for them. It's going to be good for you. It's going to be glorifying to God, which is super excellent also. So this whole idea of being careful what media comes in, what comes in through TV, what comes in through your phone, what comes in through your computer, what is hitting you guys every day. Think about it this way. You're making your house a safe haven. If you're letting all kinds of whatever in your house, it's not a safe haven because you're just being exposed to all this stuff. And sometimes it really hits you. And sometimes you don't even realize it hits you because you're so numb to it and everything. So making your house, your home, a safe place, making your house a home and a safe haven for your kids requires some of these sacrificial decisions of saying, no, we're not going to watch that. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to let you be on social media. You're not going to have a phone until X age, whatever it is right for your child. So I encourage you, take the hard stance, right? Be firm in your resolve. Listen to your children when they talk to you about things and their concerns. I'm not saying just go, no, we're not talking about it. No, listen to your kids. They need to be heard. And you can say, you know what, we'll take it to Jesus, we'll pray about it, and we'll come back to you with an answer. And if you don't move, you don't move. And you tell the kids, you know what, we took it to the Lord, and he's like, no, this is where we need to stand. This is where we need to dig our heels in. This is the hill we're going to die on. It's important. It's important. So don't let those incorrect messages in. It's going to harm you. It's going to harm your kids. Your worldview is going to be messed up. Make sure your worldview is biblical. So let's think about Philippians 4:8. It talks about the things we're supposed to think about, right? And the things we think about is what we see, right? The things we read about, the things we see in our movies, in our feed, as we're scrolling on YouTube. What does he talk about thinking about all the time? Well, the things are true, they're noble, they're right, they're pure, they're lovely, they're admirable, they're excellent, they're praiseworthy. Are the things that you're seeing, talking about, scrolling through, watching on YouTube, are these things, or is it these things? Does it fall into these categories? Let's keep our views of beauty in line with Philippians 4:8. When you're not pelted by all the garbage, you have that beautiful, gentle, quiet spirit, confident in the beauty that God has put in you as a human being made in his image, right? Keep your views of beauty there. Don't let the world mess it up. You are worth the effort. Your kids are worth the effort. You will be free of so much garbage if you can, and it's okay to shelter. I know people say, oh, I don't shelter my kids. Or shelter, you're a helicopter mom, right? Well, there's so much garbage. Of course we have to shelter our children. And you introduce them to things that they need to know about as they get older enough to handle that stuff. We don't barrage our little children with all this garbage that, oh my goodness, these poor little children. As they get older and mature enough, there's going to be different ages for every kid. As they get older and mature enough to handle some of those hard topics, you talk about them so that when they are an adult and they leave your home and they engage the world, they're not, oh my goodness, what is this? I didn't know this world existed. That's just as dangerous as letting your kid watch whatever they want. So balance, again, it's always balance. Protect your children. Introduce them to what they need to be aware of as they are mature enough to deal with it, so that they are prepared to become adults and live as functional adults in the world. So again, this takes prayer. This takes time. This takes meditation. This takes discussion with your spouse. It's not just, kind of whatever, we'll wing it. This is something it needs almost to be calculated, right? And you need to be flexible to God's leading and willing to do what it is that he's saying, you know what, this is not good for you. This is not good for your children. You really need to stop this and be willing to obey, right? So that's the deal with beauty. It is worth it. It is so worth it. And I don't have it all down. I'm still confessing things to God, and I'm still working with my kids through things. I need to open up and speak to my kids about more things and to prepare them to and get their minds on the right track. So we're all on a work in progress. We're all walking with Jesus. We're all on a journey. It's different for each of us, but keep walking the journey. I encourage you, keep walking the journey. So this week, as you and your children learn to follow Christ in all of life, everywhere, in all the things that you're doing, tell each other that you're beautiful. Tell each other different ways that you're beautiful. Sure, it can be, wow, that's a nice outfit for today. I love your hair today, Mom. But also point out those character traits. Oh, look at how you shared with your sibling, and it was peaceful and calm and beautiful. Well, maybe not calm, because if it's boys, they might be kind of rowdy. But if they're not fighting and it's a fun rowdy, they need to know that that was beautiful, right? So let's change the way we see things, change our perception, and be mindful to compliment our kids when they do something that's beautiful in their character, right? So good. So good to remember. So thank you for tuning in this morning. I know it was early. We're enjoying the snow. Next week, I will be back on with Shannon Lehman. It will be pre-recorded because we have a hard time matching our schedules, but we're going to be talking about IEPs and how to homeschool with an IEP, what's the purpose of an IEP, that sort of thing. So if you have an IEP in your life or are wondering about that, you might want to tune in there and get some information about homeschooling with IEPs. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget the Midwinter Conference that is coming up, midwinterconference.org with a dash in the middle there. I will be speaking. I'll be doing a session on the law and a session on common educational things like grades and what the deal is with grades, if that applies in homeschooling and that sort of thing. So we'll be opening your minds to some new ideas. So anyway, thank you, Rachel. I really appreciate your message. I appreciate the encouragement. And guys, like, share, subscribe to us on YouTube. Share this video. If it blessed you, share it in the groups that you're in. I know you're out there in Facebook groups. I know you know people who would be blessed by this message. So please share it with them too. Make them aware of these resources because everybody needs to be encouraged in what they're doing in their homeschool journey. Okay? Take care. Enjoy the snow. We will see you next week. Bye now.